Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and I'm super excited today to dive into the full moon that's happening on October 17th in the sign of Aries. I was thinking about not doing this video because I actually have another one that I already filmed that was supposed to come out this week, but when I looked at the moon, I was like, okay, I can't not create a video around this. This is going to be a somewhat harsh full moon, and I think it's going to especially hit those of us who have planets around kind of like 20 to really the late degrees or the end degrees of all of the cardinal signs, which is going to be Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries. You guys are going to be feeling this the most, essentially. So, yeah, I have my moon at one of these degrees, so we'll see how that goes. But essentially, what is making this full moon so difficult is a number of factors. And once we start to see that in astrology, kind of multiple things pointing to a similar outcome, you can rest assured that it's probably going to be that outcome. And so let's talk about some of those factors. First of all, this Aries full moon is conjunct Chiron. So you can see the moon in Aries, Chiron and Aries right next to each other. So there is something always sensitizing and somewhat triggering about Chiron. As a transit, I see it super commonly involved in negative health outcomes for people. So if you already have something going on in your life that's creating imbalance and you have an Aries moon, you might find that at this time you are either emotionally or physically going to go through some kind of challenge. The other aspect of this is that this full moon is a part of a grand cross in cardinal sign, so cardinal grand cross. So basically what that is four planets squaring each other, like making a square with each other. Does this look like a square? Yeah. So the moon is squaring Mars, you can see here. Mars is squaring the sun is squaring Pluto, and Pluto is squaring the moon. So all these things are interacting with each other in this kind of closed circuit of tension. And if you imagine a square as a development of conflict or of crisis, you can see how having four of them and four planets like pushing at each other and egging each other on. You can see how that would really create this sense of discomfort, which is inherently, especially because of the planets involved, it's inherently a very kind of chaotic type of energy. Because it's Mars and Pluto involved, there is this process of rebirth with Pluto and conflict with Mars. So at the heart of whatever this full moon is going to be some kind of tension or conflict or disagreement or something that stresses us out. Mars, in order to instigate a necessary ending, a necessary transformation, which inherently means that there's going to be a new beginning. And one of the messages that I got when I was pulling cards around this full moon was so much around starting something new, having a new beginning. I don't necessarily see this full moon as representing that itself, although Aries is the first sign of the zodiac and naturally has, as a cardinal sign, the impetus for beginning something or getting something going. So there is that nature in this full moon, but it's almost like the ending creates the space for the beginning. And I feel like there is some overlap between those two things that I think we're going to see play out right now, but also in the next new moon, because I definitely think that that will be linked, as well as 6 months from now when we have an Aries new moon. So this is an important full moon, not only because it's so chaotic, but because it's on the back of an eclipse or eclipse season. So there's something quite fated about this period of time, and we are, approaching elections, and I just think that things are going to start again becoming really chaotic, especially because Mars is going to be going retrograde soon, and that's what my whole video is about, which I'll post soon. But basically, I feel like this is a time in which many of us are going to be exploring certain things that are kind of around our sense of identity and what we are emotionally attached to, maybe even things in regards to family, because Mars is in Cancer, which is the sign of family, and Mars is the ruler of this full moon. And Mars is also, again, about to go retrograde in the new year. And right now, where it's traversing is the same spot it's going to be returning to in a few months from now. So we're going to be kind of setting the scene for the things that are going to be reviewed and changed in early 2025. So we have to kind of understand where the strife is in our life, where our comfort zone, our habits, our emotional attachments, our kind of family lineage and how we've been influenced by our family, our patriotism, our sense of reliance or like identification with something or someone or an entity. All these things are really going to kind of be called into question. And because Pluto is involved and because Mars is opposite Pluto, there's definitely some degree of question around, are there certain things that we're doing that are self-destructive? Are there even like assumptions? That was a big theme, to like be aware of our assumptions with things, because I think many of us might unearth some uncomfortable truths around the time of this full moon. And I think that has a lot to deal with the fact that Pluto and Chiron are involved. Pluto is a truth-giving planet, and Chiron indicates that it's probably going to be something that is somewhat triggering to us, what is revealed. And so I feel like this full moon is really about pulling back the veil, pulling back the layer of kind of fine dust where we may have overlooked something or idealized something or not wanted to deal with something or pacified someone. And it's like, I think it's going to reach ahead as a result of this moon. And it's going to force our hand, force us to look at the impact of a self-destructive behavior that we might have inherited from a family member, or a certain kind of conflation with our identity around something. If you really conflate your identity with your work success, you might find that there's stress at work right now, and you're forced to look at the layers and the nuance of how you are emotionally dependent on the security of your job and how that reflects upon you. So it's like, ultimately, that's just an example of an unlimited amount that is trying to indicate that there can be certain behaviors or things that we are in a loop with that are either based off of insecurity, based off of us avoiding things and our feelings, based off of us incorrect assumptions, or self-destructive behaviors. And anything that kind of has its roots in those origins are going to be surfacing right now. This might not happen to everybody, but again, that's with astrology. It's really dependent on if the chart is aspecting, if the transits, the planets, or this chart right here that you can see is aspecting your natal planets. So if you're like, I had nothing happen to me, it's because you probably don't have any cardinal planets around kind of 25 degrees. So this is a time where we are meant to cleanse. And I think ultimately that cleansing is going to feel more like a purging, a forceful kind of like I'm just imagining vomiting, basically, like somebody who is kind of forced into, like they're feeling so uncomfortable and they're so sick that there's no way around this. There's no way to avoid this. And this reminds me, I'm just quick anecdote. I was reading a Reddit story and this person is updating live right now. And they had been ignoring for like 20 years the fact that their husband was having an affair with somebody, and all of it is coming out to light right now, and she's finally kind of facing the music and admitting things to herself that she hasn't wanted to admit, and it's so much worse than even she thought. Turns out those two people are related, and just it's crazy. So basically that's kind of how I see this full moon, is if you've been really avoidant with something and you're not wanting to feel it, or you don't want to admit it to yourself, you won't be able to escape it. It will come out and it will wreak havoc in its own way. And ultimately, the purpose of this is to not just have unnecessary mayhem, but the purpose of this is to force us to cleanse our body, our minds, our spirits, our life of toxicity, of unhealthily rooted issues in our life, so that we can have a fresh start with something. Because that is really what an Aries moon is about. It's about taking proactive action towards this new beginning, towards feeling lighter and freer. And I pulled the Fool card, and I feel like Fool and Aries really just meld together perfectly. There's this feeling of like a season of our life is coming to end, where we were maybe, again, kind of asleep in certain ways with certain aspects of our life, that we weren't recognizing how it was unhealthy. And now it's going to ignite us into proactive action to get rid of those things, not be on autopilot any longer, fully end that cycle and have this kind of cleansing, fresh start. And I think ultimately, if you're like, well, what area of life is this going to hit? How do I know what's going to happen? Ultimately, I feel like we'll go into all the signs, so you'll get that there, but you can really start to discern this for yourself by asking yourself, where have I felt this sense of lack, of disappointment, of something being missing, of feeling burnt out by something or ready to give up on something? Where have you felt exasperated and like you are just trying to catch a breath? That is, I think, ultimately when you really sit with your feelings around something, that is going to be the area of life that's affected by this full moon. And it is an emotional experience. Again, Mars, the ruler of this moon, is in Cancer. So it is something very deeply personal to each of us. It is something that we might be, again, really embedded into, really identified with, really comfortable with. Even if it's uncomfortable, we can still be comfortable with the uncomfortable because it's familiar, because it's known, and because we're scared of change or loss. And so ultimately, this full moon is forcing us to experience that change and that loss. And it is an Aries moon, so it's forcing us through external circumstances to face something, to face how we feel about something, to the point where it's making it so obvious we can't deny it any longer. And then the Aries aspect of this moon is all about us being proactive, making choices and taking our agency into our own hands around how we want to navigate the situation moving forward. So ultimately, I think this Aries energy is about taking some kind of leap of faith, going into some like new adventure or hitting new ground. It might not feel like an adventure. It might feel like, in this case with this woman, like she's forced to leave her partner. She might feel like that's not an adventure. She might feel like it's really scary and she didn't want to do that. But it gets to a place where, again, you outgrow this toxic kind of situation and it bursts open and forces you out of that nest and forces you out into a new journey. Just like these people who are going through the hurricanes over in the Carolinas. Some of these people lost their homes in the river. So they're going to be forced to relocate, to make sense of what their life is going to be next. And that is the energy of this full moon. And I think one of the things that we need to kind of be aware of, because this is an Aries moon, is being a little bit like impulsive and hasty. I think that it's important to counter that with discernment and judgment. Because, for example, in this Reddit story that I was talking about, this woman is filing for divorce. And so she went to a lawyer and asked, like, what are the best steps? I don't want to just like tell them that I'm leaving and give them all the ammo. Like, I want to have a chance to prepare. And I think that there's something so wise about that, where we might have an initial knee-jerk emotional reaction to something, and that's absolutely going to happen at this full moon. But then from that place, don't make a life-altering decision. We want to make sure that we heed those emotions. Don't ignore them, but make educated, logical decisions based off of them in a non-impulsive and calculated, discerning way. That is, I think, the ultimate goal and takes a huge amount of self-control. So we'll see how good we are at this or how not good we are. One of the things that I think, is pulling cards on what's the outcome, like what will happen as a result of all of this and happening at the full moon. So I got the Five of Wands, which represents conflict. And one of the things that I got with this is like being willing to defend something. So this is if somebody gaslights you, if somebody emotionally manipulates you, if somebody is trying to get under your skin, or they threaten to hold something over you, or, whatever it is. It's important at this time to not be passive and to not be overreactive or super hasty either, but somewhere in between where we are being proactive and we are defending and standing up for ourselves in a wise way. I think there is definitely going to be some level of feeling attacked, misunderstood, abused, controlled, triggered. Like those things are all possible, and it's going to really vary, from person to person, like how intense that is or not. It could be really mild. It could be someone, saying something mean to you on the road, right? Or it could be something much more deeply rooted. And I think for most of us, it will be, rooted in something from our past or from our childhood or from our relationships, like something that has an emotional substance to it, or it will push on the button that relates to that emotional issue in your life. So I think ultimately there is going to be some level of like needing to stick to your guns and your inner conviction and defend yourself. But again, from a place of logic. Another message around the outcome that I got was this kind of youthful like idealism, which I think is super Aries. We can see this all the time with Aries. They are just unaware of their own limits, which is like such a beautiful thing, because they are the true pioneers of our society, and they weave the fabric and the limits of our society by testing what we are capable of as people. So I think that there is something here with that, where it's like the outcome of the circumstance is eventually coming into, and this might be the 6-month mark when we hit that Aries new moon, so we can have more of that energy. I haven't looked at that yet, so I'd have to do that to say with sureness. But there's something here where we're kind of, we have to get out of this situation, or out of this, whatever this negative thing is, especially concerning other people. We have to get out of that in order to return to this kind of like youthful, like hopefulness, moving towards an ideal, moving towards a dream, moving towards what we think is giving us hope and the sense that there's a brighter future out there for us, better than this, right? And so that's kind of what I think is going to happen. And I think for many of us, that's going to look like a new material beginning. This could look like getting a new job, making more money somewhere, moving somewhere new, meeting somebody new. Like there's something there where I feel like we're being, maybe inspired is not like the right word given what's going on with this. Maybe it is, because at the end of the day, Chiron is making this exact sextile to Jupiter. And that means that it's also sextiling the moon and shining the sun. So there is this like belief that I think things could be better on the other side of this, which is also an impetus for the proactive change or catalyst for that. And ultimately, I think for many of us, it is going to be highly relational, this full moon. It's going to involve other people. I mean, yeah. I think for most of us it will. Just because Venus is in Scorpio, and it's also at 29 degrees, a degree of crisis. And so it's in a sign, Venus is in a sign it doesn't like to be in. It's in a really intense degree around crisis. And it's also opposite Uranus, which represents a lot of volatility. So there's a lot of emotional volatility, maybe the feeling of like being betrayed or being hurt or not trusting people or people acting really erratically. there's just something going on here where it's like, can we trust people's motives, or how are we being treated? Those are really important things that we are looking at right now. And with Uranus opposite Venus, like, who knows how people are going to be. And it's a time to get out of that. If you're in any kind of toxic situation that involves other people, this is a full moon that is agitating that and is going to make it really clear that it's time to make some kind of change. Maybe a change in boundary, maybe leaving the relationship, maybe communicating in a way that would defend yourself or protect yourself. There's something here where it's like, you get to a point in life where something's got to give. This is that point. And again, it's a lot about focusing on like what is toxic. Pluto right now is at 29 degrees, and this is it. Like, this is the last little bit of Pluto at 29 degrees. And then it's moving into Aquarius for good. So we're getting that kind of crisis element of Pluto being at the final degree of Capricorn and really having us look at these kind of solid structures and things that we've invested our time into and things that we are assuming is correct. And it's having us question, can I trust the powers that be? Is this actually the truth? Is this thing that I've invested so much time in really able to support me and withstand these things in life? And I think ultimately this is a time to question a lot of things and come to your own sense of what's true. So yeah, ultimately I feel like we need to defend something for ourselves. We need to get clear on what our truth is, and we need to be aware of our assumptions and allow ourselves to just purge whatever is going on at this time. So let's go ahead and dive into what this will look like for all the signs so that you can know and get advice for you in particular. If you enjoy this, please don't forget to comment down below. That really helps my content get out there. And also don't forget to subscribe and like the video. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. So for you guys, this full moon is happening on October 17th in your sign. If you've watched the overview, then you know that this is not an easy full moon. This is a full moon of crisis, of defensiveness, of things coming to a head. And I pulled two cards for you guys around what you're not seeing, and it really was a repetition of what I said in the overview. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you watch that, because that is really your reading in a larger synopsis. Ultimately, with this eclipse, or sorry, this full moon taking place in your first house, this is a time of awakening, of awareness, and deep feeling, big emotions, especially because Chiron is involved in this full moon. It's sitting right on top of the moon, in fact. So the cards that I pulled for you were overlay and suppression. And ultimately, they're just talking about what you're not seeing. So the overlay card is talking about how you are kind of lying. Basically, it says you're lying to yourself. Like, the overlay is being in the situation that you're in, but allowing yourself to like put a veil over it and try to interpret it in a way that is less painful. It was saying like, oh, I'm interpreting the walls of my cell as like a fun medieval castle, and like basically just trying to, with the suppression card, suppress how you really feel about it and not address things. And this full moon is about catalysts for change, for purging, for, again, defending oneself or finding some kind of truth about a situation. And that's absolutely going to happen to you guys, especially if you have any planets around kind of like 25 degrees, 24, 25, or few degrees more or less than that, especially of all the cardinal signs, but especially of Aries. You're going to feel this. And so people might really trigger you around this time, especially your relationships, because that's where the sun is in the 7th house. It's also, this full moon is making a grand cardinal cross, squaring Mars and Pluto in your 4th house, Pluto in your 10th house. So some stuff could really hit on like every front. You could have stuff going on with your family. You could have stuff going on at work. You could have relationship issues going on. It could be in all areas. They could be affecting each other. It could be one area. It's really impossible to say. But there's something here where it's like you have to face the reality of something and make a necessary change, like admit how you feel, and as a result, deal with something. For some of you, I pulled the Eight of Pentacles. This could be related to a project. This could be something that you are, well, let me keep pulling cards. Anything else, Spirit, around? The Eight of Pentacles is a sign of someone trying to master a skill or work on something. And so you guys might be in the process of trying to get better at something in your life. And this full moon is really going to show you where the sticking points are, where you are, where you're getting stuck with the devil in reverse. The self-sabotaging behaviors is going to help you work on getting unstuck from those limiting beliefs or self-sabotaging behaviors. You know, if you say that you want to find love, but then you're a woman and you're interested in men, and you're just bitching about how you hate men all the time, then this is going to energetically be a block for you. You're not going to look at solutions to your dating problems. We also have the Page of Swords upright, Page of Cups reverse. So this is a time I really feel like where you guys are, you might feel quite emotional with the Page of Swords in reverse. You might be a little bit more prone to being reactive and emotionally immature, or dealing with emotionally immature people. And I think part of the wisdom here is to just, with this Page of Swords, I feel like do your best to communicate regardless of big feelings or the big feelings of others. I pulled the Spine card as your advice. So there's definitely something here about having boundaries, having a backbone. I already mentioned standing up for yourself, defending yourself. You know, Venus is in your 8th, opposite Uranus in your 2nd. Some of this for you guys has a very kind of survival instinct to it. The 2nd and 8th houses bring about that feeling of like threat of my existence, my survival, my independence, my financial means. So those themes can definitely come up, like, you know, boundaries around really anything. I don't want to give super specific details because since this full moon involves so many planets and so many different houses, I think it's going to really differ from person to person. But there's some need to stand up for yourself, have the backbone, have the boundary, but also understand where a little bit of flexibility is important with the spine. I don't know if you guys know this. You definitely don't know this. But my spine is fused because I have Harrington rods. So most of my back is connected to rods. So I do yoga. I'm a yoga instructor, and it's hard because there are certain back bends and things that I'm like, I can't really do it that well. All of my bend is coming from my low back. So there's something about that that's like, you don't want to be that rigid. You don't want to be so stuck in one place that you are putting all of the pressure onto, yourself or into something in your life. And it's super important to have some level of flexibility, but you really have to be able to have the solidness as well of a spine in order to keep you upright. So you need to have those boundaries along with some degree of flexibility. This card also says you might be feeling the weight of others' expectations or responsibility. You might be taking on too much, putting too much focus on living up to the expectations of others, especially concerning family or people who feel like family because of Mars and Cancer. Cancer creates, oftentimes, Cancer and Libra, some level of codependency. So there could be something where people are like, you've been too passive, or people have been relying on you, or the opposite where you've been relying on others, or they've been too passive. There's some level here where it's like there needs to be a little bit more of a line in the sand. Defining who you are, defining what you want, and not being defined by other people, and really seeing where you're allowing your story to be written already by someone else's perspective. Find ways to delegate and share the load. Remember that other people's expectations of you are theirs and not yours. Establish what your expectations and priorities are for yourself. So that's your message, Aries. I could probably go on, but hopefully that's enough to get you by. If it resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. I really am very curious how this moon is going to manifest for each of you personally. So if you want to share, I would really appreciate that. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you want a reading from me, you can subscribe. But yes, please subscribe. But if you want a reading from me, My website is always linked down below, cosmicclarityastrology.com, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, next we have Taurus rising and sun. This Aries full moon happening on October 17th is taking place in your 12th house. And there's a lot going on with it. Let's just say that. One of the things that's going on is this conjunct Chiron. Another thing that's going on is it's a part of this grand cardinal cross involving Mars in Cancer in your 8th and Pluto in Capricorn in your 9th. And then you also have Venus in your 7th house at 29 degrees of Scorpio, opposite Uranus in your 1st. So this is kind of a fucked up moon, if I'm being totally honest. I haven't really been experiencing this quite yet, but we're going to see. We're going to see what this brings up. So this for you, Taurus, because it's taking place in your 12th in conjunct Chiron, I really feel like it's going to bring up quite a bit of like fears and insecurities and things that have remained hidden within your psyche, kind of compartmentalized, put in a little box shoved into the corner, like let's deal with that or think about that someday in the future. And now you've arrived at that day. And the card that I pulled for what you're not seeing is your own goodness, like how good you are at something, how excellent you are, what a good heart you have, or how skilled you are. There's something around this where it's like you're not really seeing your own essence and your like what makes you special and what makes you you, which is super Aries. Aries is around our identity and our self-concept. So with this sign being in your 12th, there's already something a little bit like out of reach with that for you. There's something that's like, I don't know, Taurus is quite strong-willed, but there's something with Aries of, their conviction and their determination around like how they see themselves and like what they want in life. And then they just like make very fast decisions and they jump in wholeheartedly head first. No doubt they take huge risks because there's this like certainty of who they are and what they want. And Taurus, you guys are also good at working towards things that you want, but you do it in a totally different way. And so there's something about this Aries energy of like, this is who I am. This is my identity. This is how I see myself. This is why I'm super deserving of this. I believe I should have all of this. And sometimes Aries can make impossible feats happen simply through that fire of ego, of I am good. I do deserve this. Like, why wouldn't I get this? There's this kind of assumption of greatness, or maybe not greatness, but like, I am, therefore I am worthy. And so I just think that there's going to be something going on in relationship to that, to some area of your life where you're going to probably be feeling insecure or uncertain of like how you fit into something, or if you're really good at something, because Chiron on the moon, it brings up those feelings for us. It makes us feel like, emotionally uncomfortable and uncertain. Okay, so I pulled the Tower for you guys. So there could be something in your life that happens also that feels like the rug is pulled out from under you. And you're going to need to have the quality of this full moon, especially with Mars in the 3rd opposite Pluto in the 9th, is defending yourself and having conviction over something. So there's something where you might have the wool pulled over your eyes, the rug pulled out from under you, and this realization that like what you thought was this or what you were told was this gets destroyed, and you are having to like fight and defend what you think is true or what you think is right, or you're going to have to stand up for something or say something. And this is definitely like verbal, because 3rd and 9th house is all about the mind and the communication. So, yeah, especially with the Ace of Swords, it's like you could get some kind of news or something that like completely throws you off, and it forces you to have like, it forces you to totally reevaluate things and make really important decisions. And I feel like this is a time where you need to trust yourself, especially with Venus at 29 degrees of Scorpio in your 7th house. I don't know how other people are going to be behaving. I think that they're going to potentially like throw you for a loop or behave quite erratically. And ultimately what I feel like this is trying to get you to do is to get you to like free yourself. First of all, free yourself from any of these, especially with Uranus in the first, any of these like weird things in your relationship, if this involves somebody else, or whatever this is, if you're feeling insecure, uncertain about something, or if this involves some kind of toxic situation, it's like, it's ultimately to free yourself from that. But with the ending in the Magician card and the gratitude, I also feel like it's here to kind of empower you and show you where you have a say, where you can create the reality that you want by cultivating more of the thought process and the beliefs around what you're looking for or what you deserve. And again, having that kind of fullness of self, of like, I am really good at this, and I'm really grateful for all these beautiful things that I have, and I caused this. I see my own agency. I see where I have the power to make things happen. It's not just happening to me. And it's like trying to find that agency in a situation with this tower where you might feel like you're not having it. Like something happens to you, or news is revealed, or something jolts you out of a slumber in some kind of way, and you're like, you might feel at the whims of the universe. But I think ultimately it's trying to get you to own this. Like, can't you see, like, you have a say in the sense of direction, and you deserve to have the kind of environment that you're looking for, and not just whatever this is. And that's kind of like what I feel like the universe is trying to get out of you. Let me just pull one more card. There could be some kind of loss here with this full moon in the 12th house. Again, some kind of purging, like I'm going to really let go of that person or that idea or that thing that was really not in alignment in some kind of way. I pulled the She Who Calms, Stillness, Purity, and Quiet. So this could be some advice for you guys, especially anytime we have a full moon in the 12th. It's usually a good time to kind of take a step back, take a step away from the problem, the busyness of life, and have a second to ultimately kind of like discover what you believe is true. So yeah, I feel like these situations of this full moon are not super specific because they involve so many houses, and I feel like the message is really, from the overview, is really hitting for each group. So make sure that you watch that, and if you enjoyed this, please do comment down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and if you want a reading from me, check me out at cosmicclarity.astrology.com, which I will link in the description box down below. Thanks. All right, I have Gemini rising and sun. So for you guys, this Aries full moon is happening on October 17th in your 11th house. And if you haven't watched the overview, definitely make sure you watch that, because I feel like this overview is kind of a copy and paste for all the groups with some slight variation. So definitely watch that. It's super important because I'm going to be addressing some of these things again here. So this full moon is extremely dysfunctional. I am not looking forward to it, to be totally honest. Chiron is conjunct the moon. This full moon is also half of a cardinal cross, squaring Mars, squaring Pluto. And I just feel like people are going to be really erratic right now. I feel like behavior is just going to be unexpected. I think that, I don't know, I just like, this seems like a triggering kind of full moon where we're forced to feel and face certain things. And for you guys, I feel like with this being in your 11th house paired with this longing card, the 11th house is like our dreams and our hopes and our wishes for the future. And I literally pulled exactly this. It's like yearning, longing, pining for something, desiring something. I feel like there's something that you guys really want, but then you're having this kind of like, I asked Spirit, like, what are you not seeing? And I have this card here that talks about having a filter and like having a very subjective perspective that you are seeing as truth. But it's important at this time to see the reality of a situation. And that's what I think is going to be happening at this full moon. If you've been yearning for something in your life, I think you're going to see some kind of truth in regards to that. So it could be a truth in regards to like why you want that. Is it coming from a certain place of insecurity or fear? What's really going on here? If you really want something and you're not acting on it, where is the trepidation and the apprehension coming from? This full moon can help you dive deep into that. There's a lot here with this square to Mars in the 2nd and Pluto in the 8th. There's a lot here around like money and security and our feeling of like survival or safety and who we trust and what we can lean into and what we can't trust or what we can't lean into. And there's a lot of those kind of, again, deeply triggering things that I think are going to be brought up at this time. This could also involve your friends because this moon is in the 11th house, so there could be a very social quality to this, but it could just be deeply personal. This is an Aries moon. It's talking about your desires to some extent, and I think ultimately, like, Spirit wants you to get clear on what is something that's promoting like stability for you. With Mars in the second, like, yes, you need to like have some kind of self-sufficiency and stability and being able to take care of things yourself. But then there's also some element of where that can be toxic. Staying in a marriage for way too long, staying in a job even when it becomes unhealthy or makes you emotionally unhappy. The way that you kind of manage your money and the things that you own, holding on to too much attachments to things, or pursuing things at all costs to feel safe, to feel secure. Like, these are themes that can come up that can show you like more nuances around something that you really desire and long for. It's a complicated relationship that I think you're having with what you want. It's not so simple as like, I want this thing and it's good for me and like I'm gonna go out and do it. There's something else going on here. It's like, I either want it for an unhealthy reason, or I want it, but I'm letting things get in the way of me having it, or I don't know what I want, or I know what I want, but I'm not like taking the steps because I feel like I don't know what I want, but actually you're lying to yourself about that. It's like all these different things. And an Aries moon is about agency. Seeing where we have the potential for change, seeing where we can create something for ourselves, or we can leave something for ourselves. So there's a sense of like, I am empowered as a result of this full moon. I'm empowered to stand up for myself, to do this thing for myself, to go after this thing, to end this thing. I'm empowered to do whatever it takes in these scenarios to promote like basically healing, because Chiron is on this moon. So for the cards, I pulled for you guys 10 of Pentacles, Knight of Wands, and the Ace of Wands in reverse. So something feels like, with the Ace of Wands ending the reading in reverse, the first thing that came to mind was like a false start. So almost like, okay, yeah, I'm like so excited about this thing. Like, I want to do this thing. I'm going to do it. And then you make some progress or you start, and then it's like, it gets shut down, or you like can't continue with that thing, or you don't want to continue with it anymore. It's like, or not, it wasn't what you thought it was. Something here around like some kind of false start, basically. That's a potential for some of you guys at this full moon. And with the 10 of Pentacles and Knight of Wands, I really feel like you guys in this case are like running towards the bag. With 10 of Pentacles is that feeling of like safety and security and support and having a lot of money. And with the Knight of Wands, I feel like you guys you're making moves based off of this like intrinsic desire or value or even fear, whatever it is that's like motivating you for stability, security, for money, for survival. You guys with the Knight of Wands, I feel like are really motivated. You're really motivated to like get something done, to go after something, to create that sense of security for yourself. But then we have the Ace of Wands. And to me, there's something around this situation, or like on the side of the situation, where you have to like stop doing something. Or you could be delayed in some kind of way. So there's this sense of like, I'm really motivated to go after this thing or do this thing. And then either that thing gets blocked, or in order for you to fully go after something, you have to stop something else. So there's a sense of like something not moving forward continuously. And it doesn't have to be the same thing that we're talking about, but you're running towards something and then something is stopping. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like ultimately this full moon for you guys is about, I mean, probably for a lot of you, it's about work, because Venus is in your 6th house opposite Uranus in the 12th. I just feel like there's a lot of unknowns and kind of like unpredictability in your work life right now. And I think that this could be that stop start energy, or like, I don't know what to do next. I I really long for like a specific outcome. I really, really want something, but maybe you're not even totally sure what you want, or maybe you know what you want, but you don't know how to get there. And I just feel like this full moon is going to bring up all of the feelings around the situation, all of kind of the unhealthiness that could be in any facet of the situation. So an unhealthy emotion, unhealthy habit, an unhealthy belief, an illogical perspective that you're taking as truth, and you're saying, well, I can't go about this thing because of this belief and this perspective. It's like whatever it is, I feel like you're unearthing, you're uprooting whatever that unhealthy thing is, and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, that was stopping me from going after what I really want. And you're like gonna throw it away and be like, fuck that, basically. I'm cussing a lot on this one, but I don't really care. Okay, so your advice card is the emotion card. So part of what this card to me is saying, and you know what's standing out to me is like the cucumber on this. Cucumbers are very hydrating, they're very cooling. There's something that's standing out to me about this where it's like feeling your feelings can be so relieving for you at this time. And I think that's going to be the case for everybody, really. But it's like, how can we just liberate our feelings? Because I feel like we can kind of be like the illogical perspective, the filter that we're seeing, that we're accepting as truth, is likely very emotionally based. But if we just decide to feel our feelings, you know, if that incorrect belief was kind of propped up against you know, like a fear of failure or a fear of loss or whatever, when you feel the feelings, when you feel that fear, or you go through that process and you allow yourself to experience the feelings, then it's easier to detach from that filter that you were using as like a crutch to not have to feel those feelings. This card says, any uncertainties that have been hanging around should begin to fall away soon. A commitment and even perhaps a major life decision will come up, and you are advised to take hold of your emotions before you determine the right path for you. Definitely, definitely true. Someone near you may express themselves in an unsettling way. Definitely true. So try to ride that wave gently until it passes. It could be time to take a new step forward. So all those things are very, very relevant for you guys. That's what I have for you, my Geminis. If you want a reading from me, check me out at cosmicclarity.astrology.com. If this resonates with you, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer, Rising, and Sun. This full moon in Aries is happening on October 17th in your 10th house. And if you haven't watched the overview, definitely check that out, because I've been saying that this is a extremely chaotic, dysfunctional, triggering kind of full moon, where I think we're becoming very aware of something. A full moon is bringing awareness, right? It's illuminating the moon from the sun, the light of the sun. And you know, this is an important one for you, not only because it's in an angular house like the 10th house, which is all about our career and our reputation and our visibility and our sense of direction, but it's also deeply personal for you because the ruler of this moon, Mars, is in your sign. It's in Cancer. And you guys are going through a whole chapter really until like next May of 2025, because there's just so much going on with Mars being the sign of Cancer. It's there right now. It's also, Mars is going to get to a few degrees of Leo, like 6-7 degrees of Leo, and then it's also going to go backwards through Cancer again. So those of you who have you know, anything in Cancer around like 15 plus, 15, 16, 17, all the way to 29, 30. There's not 30, but 29 and 59 seconds. You guys are going to be going through some really big metamorphosis in your life. And I think you're going to have a lot of awakenings and realizations. And it's definitely kicking off at the time of this full moon for you. With Mars being in your sign, in your first house, this is a time in which for everyone, it's a time for us to really reflect on who we are, because this is an Aries full moon. But even more so for you guys, with Mars being in your first, it's important to kind of dig deeper into the unhealthy things that are going to clearly show themselves at this time. I pulled this card for you around what you're not seeing, and this card talks about you not seeing your own motivations. What is really driving you? What it is that you really want. And part of the reason why we don't look at our true motivations for something is because we don't want to feel like a bad person, and we don't want to feel shame if there's things around what we want that are not like inherently just pure and good. If somebody made you suffer and you want them to suffer, you might say like, oh, I just want to set a boundary with them, or I just like don't want to talk to them right now. But really you want them to suffer like you did, and you're kind of getting back at them in some kind of way, but you're telling yourself it's this other thing. And you're kind of validating something that might not be true. So this full moon in Cancer is really about you becoming really aware of what you are feeling, what you are desiring, what's really underneath your motivations and drives for something, and peel back the layers and truly like experience all of the colors of that, even if it is some morally gray involved in there. And this could very much be affecting kind of your reputation again, or something around your career relationships. And I pulled the passion card. So this definitely feels like, why do you want something? Why do you want to move forward in this direction? Why are you motivated by this thing? Again, the passion, the drive there's something deeper to it that I think could have some unhealthy roots, that you just have to see the truth in. It's not that you have to change at all, because, you know, humans will always have that nuance and that gray. But I think to live in a lie is also not okay. It's like, what if we just owned the whole self? So this card says, look at the core of what usually motivates you for direction and a lifting of any negative energies. Because a focus on self-love and developing a better understanding is needed. Beetroot supports your heart chakra and will show you that new projects, personal goals, and emotional healing are all in positive light with a chance of success. Challenges include family disagreements, getting stuck on the superficial. Yeah, so definitely some family disagreements are possible for all of us. But yeah, you are included. You know, part of this grand cross at the time of this full moon is the sun, which is in your 4th house, which is family. So yeah, I mean, a lot of areas can be affected. Your career, your family, your physical body, your relationships, your emotions, you know, even to some degree, again, your desires and your prosperity. I almost like didn't want to do all of the signs, because I'm like, I feel that these messages are so similar to each other, because I think that the energy of this moon is just so pure and involves so many planets that there isn't like a specific way that it's going to manifest for each sign. I feel like it's really going to manifest for all of us in very similar ways, in the sense that I think we're all going to have to face something, to face some kind of truth. I just think for you, it's a personal truth, a truth about what is motivating you, what's driving you, why you are doing something, why you are moving in a certain direction. Moon in the 10th house, sense of direction. We do also have Venus at 29 degrees in Scorpio, which is in your 5th house, opposite Uranus in the 11th. So definitely relationships can be really kind of erratic, and we might be part of that, especially with Venus in the 5th. There might be things that we want when we want it. And I think it's important to maybe explore that if that's the case for you. It doesn't have to just be around relationships either. You can want what you want in any kind of way. And I feel like Venus in the 5th is rather like seductive and unfiltered, and like she's okay with desire and pleasure, and like not trying to put a damper on that, or like put a wall around that. And I feel like there's something with that, with this Knight of Cups in reverse especially. There's something with that where it's like kind of like the Don Juan who like flirts with all the girls, who's like uninhibited, or the person who like gambles a lot and they like don't care about how much debt they're going into, or, you know, the person who just has sex with all these random people and like, you know, they don't even know who the baby daddy is. And there's just like this sense of like, I'm totally not putting a cap on something. I mean, that might not be you, right? That definitely doesn't have to be you. But there can be something like that in a kind of subtle way in our life, where there can be these behaviors where we're like really driven just by our desire nature, and we're not like checking in around that. We're not putting, again, boundaries around it, or we are not being aware of how it affects others, or we are not inhibiting ourselves in necessary ways, or we are not seeing if that desire is rooted in something else, like trying to meet some need for connection by being really intimate with a ton of people, for example. That's just the easiest example I can think of. But you can match this to your own experiences, like where am I where are the roots of my desire? Where is it coming from? And how does my desire kind of like create, yeah, like my drives, my passion, my desire, how does that create situations that affect other people? And I did pull the King of Pentacles and Page of Swords. So I really feel like there's something here where, I mean, I think all of us to some extent are in an era right now of wanting to have some kind of like stability, some sort of control over our lives. And I definitely feel like that's going to be highlighted right now as well. And there could be, again, like the question around what are you willing to do to get that, or what is the deeper drive behind that? I don't know. There's something just deeper to explore around the pursuit of like career success or financial stability or power, leadership, authority, things like that. It's like, you know, our relationship with those types of people, like also like leaders in our life or authorities in our life, could be explored. Yeah, and then we end with the Page of Swords. So I almost feel like there's this recommendation here of like going back to just being curious and open and doing that in your self-assessment. Like, I am willing to be curious about my own personality and reflect on these things, even if I feel shame or embarrassment or self-loathing to some extent. Like, I'm willing to experience all of those emotions in order to actually deeply understand myself, because sometimes we have to face harsh truths about ourselves and feel the difficult emotions with it in order to get out on the other side to do something kind of proactive in our life about those realizations that could be negatively affecting us. It's like, just by ignoring it doesn't mean it's not there, and it could be having offshoots of like circumstances in your life that are kind of affecting you. And at this full moon, I think you're going to feel and see the hidden motivations and drives and explore different aspects of the self with curiosity, so that you're not just like driven or affected by them. You are able to take kind of the power into your own hands, your desires into your own hands, and have agency over these things, so that you can set yourself up for success or set necessary limits for yourself or direct yourself into certain areas versus others. So I hope that's making sense, but that's my message for you guys. If this resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you want a reading from me, you can always check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com, which I will link in my description box always. If you want to support this channel at all, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe so other people can find this video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, next we have Leo rising and sun. So for you guys, this Aries full moon is happening in your 9th house. And yeah, I mean, this is such a chaotic and dysfunctional full moon. I'm not really excited about it. I think it's definitely going to bring out some kind of conflict. And with this being in the 9th house, opposite the sun in the 3rd, there's definitely a lot that can go wrong in terms of messages, communication, getting ideas across, understanding something, perceiving something. And there can be conflict that comes up with other people as you're trying to relay or share something, and you might be misinterpreting something else, and other people might be misinterpreting you. And there's just all this kind of energy where people might see you, or you might see others, as being a little bit aggressive and confrontational. And that's definitely because, Chiron is on this moon, which creates this sensitivity and this easily, feeling of being easily triggered, essentially. It's also, this moon is also squaring Mars in Cancer in the 12th. And there's something about planets in the 12th that are unable to see. Mars is the ruler of this full moon. So having Mars in the 12th does indicate that there is something that the universe is trying to make you aware of, that you have been unable to see, especially about yourself. And I say that because I did pull this card of like, what is my Leo not seeing? And I got the impact card, which has to deal with you not seeing your impact on others, not seeing how your body language, your choice of words, your distance, or your choices to do or not do something, how that is impacting other people around you and making them feel. And so I feel like this full moon for you guys is really coming to terms with seeing how I think for everybody, there's some sense of like agency here, of taking responsibility, taking accountability, seeing how we play a part in something, and also seeing where we maybe have given up our power to other people, or to, you know, other things like, oh, I'm really anxious or I have really poor health, so I'm going to give my power to that thing and blame things on that instead of taking my power back and taking accountability for how I'm reacting, for example. So there's something here where it's like trying to see yourself more clearly, trying to see your impact on others more clearly, and also starting to see like where you maybe have been kind of like, yeah, just not owning something. And I feel like I gave this message to Leo like last year sometime. Maybe not, maybe it was another fire sign, but yeah, there's definitely something here around kind of being forced to take your own medicine, or look at yourself and like take ownership and be like, yes, okay, I see how that saying that thing or doing that thing has led to this result, or has impacted this person in this way, or has created this situation. You know, I can see why, you know, even if somebody has wronged you, there's always some role we play in a situation. If somebody wrongs you, maybe the role that you played was that you stayed too long, or you didn't communicate your needs, or you didn't set a boundary, or you didn't stand up for yourself. It could be anything. Or you could be the one who's doing the wronging. It doesn't really matter. What matters is seeing and owning whatever you have control over, and making yourself aware, especially with Mars and Cancer in the 12th. There can definitely be like self-sabotaging things. And if you're not aware of your participation in your own life and the impact that you make through your actions in your life, but also on others, then you can stay in these kind of like, you can stay in self-destructive behaviors because you might not see that you have the capability of changing. You might not see that you're in a toxic relationship that you have the power to leave, for example. And so ultimately, this is a full moon that's meant to create enough kind of discomfort for you to finally see something and do something about something in your life that you have abdicated your role in, or your responsibility in. Abdicated? Is that the right word? Let me know down below. Obfuscated. That's kind of, there's a word like that, and I feel like I'm not remembering. Okay, so I pulled the She Who Doubts, Fear, Wariness, and Trust. Yeah, I mean, all of us are really going through periods like this at this full moon, especially with Venus at 29 Scorpio. If you haven't watched the overview, I literally talk about who can we trust, or what can we trust versus not trust. And you guys are definitely going to be experiencing that. Your Venus at 29 is in your 4th house, opposite Uranus in the 10th. So there could be some level of like, I mean, this could impact any kind of dynamic, but especially work relationships and people who you live with, or your family relationships. Those are going to be the most kind of prominent. But again, anything can be affected. But you might be like, I don't know, I don't really like trust that person. Or you could have something that you are motivated by that you are not trusting and you're not leaning into, and you're like, yeah, like what is true, or what can I believe in? And this card talks about fear and doubt and wariness. There's this sense of like trepidation that I think yeah, let's see where that's coming from. Anything else about this, Spirit? We have the 10 of Pentacles. This one keeps popping out. This is a career-oriented card. So this could be something for you guys financially, or with your family, because 10 of Pentacles is also family, or like career and sense of direction. You might have a lot of like fear and doubt around your future. And again, it's important not to like give away your power. You have control over your future to a certain extent. You have a control over your decisions and how you move forward and what you can accomplish. And so the 10 of Pentacles is here to remind you to not have fear, that you can have this kind of stability that you're looking for if you want it. With the Ace of Wands in reverse, I can definitely see this like self-doubt emerging, where you might not be actually taking yourself seriously, or taking up an opportunity, or taking something seriously. It's like you get offered something, you're like, no, I don't want that. Or you like meant to be looking for a job and you like don't really look that hard. Or you know, somebody tries to talk to you about doing something to better your life and you're like, I'll do that later. And so I feel like this full moon is trying to draw your attention to where you are missing out on the opportunity to take inspired action. Essentially, there's more that you can do in this situation. Again, you have a greater impact than you realize. You're not realizing your impact, and also on the world as well. Like, you might not realize that you kind of taking a back seat to something is going to rob the world of something that we're meant to have. A lot of my Leos, you guys are very creative. So there could be some song that you're meant to create, some art that you're meant to create, something that you're meant to star in. And it's like, we might never experience that if you just aren't realizing that you have the power to make that happen right now. Anything else, Spirit? Any advice or outcomes for this? Yeah, let's do outcomes for this full moon. With this moon in the ninth, I feel like it's really about believing in yourself. And I pulled the Magician. Yeah, really about believing in yourself, seeing your own powers of manifestation, seeing where you can direct your life and have faith that you can have that thing. Because right now I feel like you're just like, again, obfuscating. That's probably not a word. This is going to really bother me. But yes, you're giving up your power to someone or something else. Okay, and we have the eye. Interesting, because the sun in medical astrology rules our vision. So if you have a difficult aspect to the sun, sometimes you will have challenges with your vision. And I feel like there's just something with the eye here that you're like unwilling to see. And again, I think this has a lot to do with your personal role in things. So let me see what this card says, if I can find it. I never pull the eye also. This is like the least common one. Okay. Sensitive, observant, vision, and intuition. Sensitive with keen observational skills. You have a natural ability to take in all the facts and details and intuit what is hiding underneath the surface. You can see beyond the surface level to the deeper and complex truth. From a place of instinct and learned experience, you can envision the many possibilities and future potential of a situation. That is what a ninth house is. And this goes in many different ways. There can be a warning here for you where the truth of the situation or the anticipation of what could happen is trying to come in here and warn you this isn't the right path. So for some of you, that's a message. For others of you, it's realizing that you have the power of envisioning your future and creating your future. And you have to realize your impact and just like your intention and your energy and your focus and what you are able to see for yourself, like the impact of that. So I think that there's a lot here around trusting your instincts and really like planning your future, not being afraid of your future, not being, insecure. Because I think many of us are just insecure to some extent. And doing your best to, if you feel insecure, like move past it anyway, because we're going to feel that. So how can we like say that's okay and not let that actually inhibit us from taking steps forward? So that's what I'm seeing for you, Leo. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below if that resonates, or if you want to share your story at all. I really love to read all of the comments. Also, if you want a reading from me, you can check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com, which I always link in the description box down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. This full moon in Aries is happening on October 17th in your 8th house, and it's probably not going to be the most fun full moon, especially if you've watched the overview. You know what you're going to get into, and that is on top of it being in your 8th house. So the moon is conjunct Chiron. This tends to bring up very physically or emotionally painful situations in the 8th house, especially because this is already a very sensitive area where we have fears and insecurities and trauma and crisis and endings and things that bring up all of our own psychological inner turmoil and messes to the surface. And that's absolutely what this full moon is about, especially because this full moon is also a part of a cardinal cross where it's squaring Mars in your 5th house and opposite and squaring also Pluto in your 11th house. So it's definitely bringing up some kind of like deep survival instincts for a lot of us, a lot of defense, protective mechanisms. And for you in particular, I feel like this is going to be bringing up projection. So if you start to see a situation or a person bringing up certain things within you, like if you have, for example, somebody in your life who is doing some type of behavior and you are feeling some type of way about it, you might not be realizing that you do that behavior too, right? You might not be realizing that you're seeing or being annoyed with something in somebody else that is also within you, for example. So what's helpful right now is to reflect on your relationships and the things that come up and the people in your life as a mirror, and ask yourself like what your thoughts are about them, what your feelings are about them, and try to see if you can draw your attention to that very same essence within yourself, and try to kind of accept it or own it, and see the kind of, not the malice, but like, yeah, with the eighth house, we all have just negative aspects to our personality. And I think that everyone is going to get a taste of that of some sort around this full moon. And for you guys, it's important to like see and own who you are. And I think that ultimately the mirroring effect, the way that you see and understand others can act as like the template for how to look at yourself. What comes up when you view them, there's something about that is also residing within you. And yeah. Okay. So this is just a general time in which I think we're going to experience quite a bit of conflict, because this moon is squaring Mars in Cancer, and Mars in Cancer is already kind of like just, I don't know, I could see it as being a little bit more emotionally reactive. Mars doesn't even like to be in the sign of Cancer. And being in the fifth house, it makes me feel like your ego might try to protect you of like, oh no, that's them, or like they're doing this thing, and like not, I think that's gonna be the case for many of us, but definitely my Virgos, you know, your ego might put up these kind of defenses basically. And I think projection is one of those defenses where you're able to call other people out on their bullshit, but maybe are not as able or as willing to see certain things within yourself around that as well. So I just pulled the 10 of Cups followed by some other cards that are more challenging. I feel like there's something here that, and I feel like this has to do with Mars being in the fifth. I feel like there's something here that you guys really want. There's some kind of like emotional fulfillment. Maybe this is a lasting, healthy relationship. Maybe this is career success. Maybe this is good health or looking a certain way. But there's something here that I feel like you really want that is going to give you like great emotional satisfaction. But I also feel like there's something going on here with the Queen of Pentacles in reverse and the Five of Swords upright. There's something going on here where you are either giving up on this, or you are meeting like stress and like hostility in the way that you're going about it, or the type of person or situation or thing that you're trying to be a part of. And then also with the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, you might not be as committed to something as you think. Like you, with the 10 of Cups, it's like, yes, like I really want this. This is going to be so beautiful. But it also feels like this very like fair weather friend kind of vibe. Like, oh, this desire is here, but it's like, what are you doing to make that happen? Are you making sacrifices? Are you working consistently? Are you grounded? Are you confident? Are you doing what it takes to make something happen in your life? Like, are you trustworthy? Are you emotionally stable? Are you a good partner? Are you considerate? Or are you the Queen of Pentacles? Are you maybe unreliable or mean-spirited at times, or ungrounded, or judgmental or neglectful or manipulating something? What negative qualities do you see in another person? Because you are likely having some of those qualities play out right now. And with the Five of Swords in reverse as well, like your conviction towards something is wavering. It's like there's this feeling of giving up, kind of, you know, like wanting to just get out of the fray, out of the chaos, out of the drama. And I don't know, I just think it's going to look really differently for different people. Let me pull a clarifier, because sometimes the Five of Swords is like, I'm going to fight for this thing. And then other times, or like fight back against some kind of abuse. And then other times it's like, I'm just going to walk away, you know? So anything spirit around the any clarifier for this Five of Swords? Let's wait to make cards. One clarifier for the Five of Swords. And some of you guys just might be feeling the stress from this. The Two of Swords. Yeah, there's some kind of like impasse, a need to make a decision with something. And I think we're getting the Two of Swords because it's probably going to vary from person to person. But I think each of us needs to make a decision around which road we're going on. Are we going to leave what this thing is? With the Five of Swords, are we going to accept defeat that, you know, we really wanted this thing to work out, but actually we just can't do it anymore? The thing that we thought was like a wish here is actually, it's not what we thought. With the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, I mean, you should definitely look up what this means, because there's a lot of words associated with it, a lot of different themes. But yeah, there's a sense of like, do I really want this? Do I really want this? Because now that I'm engaged in this thing that was a wish of mine, maybe I'm realizing that it's not treating me right. It's not making me feel good. Or I'm realizing that I'm not actually fighting for it that much. I'm not actually doing what I need to do to get it. Regardless, the outcome is kind of the same. You reach an impasse where you're like, do I want to keep going with this? Am I actually committed to this? Can I see this through? Is this good for me? Is this helping me? Or is it getting to the point where it's taking more away than it's giving to me and making me feel a certain type of way about myself? And I pulled this future card, future, choice, and judgment. I feel like you're at an impasse where you're needing to decide what you want your future to look like. And there's some kind of like negative situation or negative relationship or negative energy in general that we're all going to go through around this full moon that I think is going to draw your attention in your life, and you're going to have to make an important decision, and it's likely going to affect somebody else. That projection card, though, I feel like is coming up because there's also our own part in this, right? It's not just about like, oh, they're mean to me. No. It's like the projection. I think there's it takes two to tango kind of thing. You know, not only what's your role in this, but in particular, what are some traits or things that most bother you, and why? Like, are there mirrors of that within yourself, for example? Okay, so your advice card, or further clarifying, is the kidneys. So the kidneys is about worry, insecurity, anxiety, withdrawal. You're experiencing high levels of worry and anxiety. This has led you to internalize these worries, affecting your self-esteem and causing you to withdraw from others in social situations. Absolutely. This full moon in the 8th house is very much about that. It is like not feeling very good in your own skin, especially relationally, and like your ability to trust and lean and support on other people usually is really in detriment in a full moon like this. Also, with Venus at 29 degrees of Scorpio in your 3rd house, opposite Uranus in the 9th, people are going to say things that are really kind of erratic, or like the way that people communicate is going to affect you in an unexpected way. And I think that can leave you feeling more on edge too. Immersing yourself in a cycle of anxious and fearful thoughts will only serve to increase your levels of anxiety. Yeah, so you might also be the one, instead of other people communicating things, it might also be you in your own head thinking things, because third house is the mind and communication. So there could be like you're like feeding these kind of thought cycles and it's making you really nervous. And yeah, I just feel like you guys are kind of at this Five of Swords, Two of Swords. You're stalled out, but you're anxious about having to make a decision, and you're not. It feels like you don't really want to yet. Um, any advice for my Virgos? Or if you do make a decision, or if you do kind of know what you want, I feel like maybe you haven't fully taken all the steps yet, or you're having anxiety about the decision. So your advice card is attraction. Let's see what that says, because I don't know what that's trying to indicate here. Pansies indicate that people are being pulled into your life who align well with you. Romance may be on the agenda, but this energy also helps build community and friendship circles, possibly where learning takes place. It's time to take a step back and relax into letting what's happening naturally. Hesitation and overthinking can cause blockages. Watch out for deception and gossip. Yeah, I feel like what this card is saying is that you're probably in a period right now, especially with this full moon squaring Mars in the 5th and Pluto in the 11th. These are very social houses. I feel like some of you guys, there's a lot of relational tension here where you are withdrawing, or you are uncertain about relationships, or you're having anxiety, or the other person is really unstable. There's something about your relationships that feel like volatile or unstable or uncertain. And I feel like you guys are having to make an important decision. And this card is your advice card, is all about attracting the people who align with you. So if you've been kind of in these like weird relationship dynamics with people and you haven't been feeling that good, this is your time to be cleansing your life of those weird dynamics so that you can attract those who really align with you, so that it doesn't feel stressful, so it doesn't feel like they're treating you poorly, and so that you can have confidence to move forward in that relationship. So I feel like, being in this Two of Swords of like, should I stay? Should I not stay? Is this my person? Is this not my person? Should I, do I really like this person as a friend, or do I not? Like, are we having issues or are we not? Or what is our relationship really like? Like, I don't even know how I really feel about this person. Like, that level of confusion and uncertainty, ambiguity is not good for you. And it's causing overthinking, and that overthinking is causing you to spin your wheels and not move forward relationally. And this is about purging and bring all that to the surface, all those fears, all those insecurities, all the issues that you've had with people, and kind of realizing again the projections that could be a part of them, or the complexity of the situation, but also realizing that you don't have to stay in that relationship just because there are projections happening. Because there's always going to be projections of some sort, and that doesn't mean that's right? Just because you have some responsibility in it doesn't mean that you should stay in it, or that if it's your fault you can fix it. Because there's, to some degree, there's some element of like compatibility at play. And I can see this in people's charts when I align them. This person's going to trigger you. This person's going to bring this out in you. This person's going to benefit you in this way. And like, you have a say in that, but you also don't have a say in it totally. Like, you're not the only one in control of it. So this attraction card is saying there are going to be people out there who just fit better, who just feel easier, who don't create that sense of confusion or overthinking or uncertainty. And I feel like that's what this full moon is trying to bring out, is the cleansing of whatever's not working, so you can attract the right kinds of relationships that will be working. So that is making a lot of sense, because actually in this next nodal change, we are going to have the North Node moving into Pisces, which is in your 7th house of relationships. So I definitely feel like you're going to start to draw in a lot of really powerful connections with people, a life partner, a best friend, a business partner, a community of women, or whoever you were trying to hang out with. But there's this like idea that there are going to be people for you in this next chapter, and it's okay to not be in relationship with the wrong people. And I think it's also helpful to like dive deeper into you know, the withdrawal aspect and the anxiety aspect, and what you can do about those things to kind of better your current dynamic right now. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. If it resonates, I would really love to hear what's going on for you in the comments down below. This is a kind of toxic full moon, so I'm really curious what's happening for people. And yeah, if you want a reading from me, check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com, which I will link in the description box down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra rising and sun. This Aries full moon happening on October 17th is taking place in your 7th house. And like I said in the overview, it's an extremely uncomfortable and dysfunctional and conflict-oriented type of full moon, which at the very least I think is going to bring about stress. But because this is in your 7th house, I do wonder if it's going to directly involve your relationships, because that's what the 7th house is about. You are going to have the moon conjunct Chiron. Well, we all are. And the moon Chiron tends to bring up painful situations, triggering situations, things that sensitize us emotionally, things that make us cry, that make us feel very deeply. And this moon is also squaring Mars and Pluto, which could bring up, again, conflict, especially with other people. Mars is in your 10th house, Pluto's in your 4th house. This could bring up stuff from your past, things related to family or a sense of direction in life. There's just a lot of emotions that can come out right now in regards to really just anything, but I think a lot of it's going to be triggered from other people and kind of situations that arise between maybe you and a friend, or you and your family, or you and somebody at work, like anything like that. And your planetary ruler Venus is also going through some stuff at this time. It's at 29 degrees of Scorpio. So it's at a critical degree of a sign it doesn't like to be in. So you guys might feel like you're going through a little bit of kind of like a moment of crisis or transformation or realization and awakening around certain feelings within your relationships or certain dynamics within your life. It's in the 2nd house. So this could be pertaining to also finances, feeling like, you know, you're going through some kind of weird thing with regards to where you make your money, or like a financial situation that comes up that feels like a crisis, or yeah, especially opposite Uranus in the 8th, there can be like really unexpected things that happen that affect you financially, basically, or affect the things that you own. Let me pull some cards to get a little bit more specific. So anything, Spirit, that you want to tell our Libras. So for each group, I've been also pulling cards in this deck around what you're not seeing. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. And some of the things that you're not seeing was not seeing the signs and not taking a stance. So this is super Libra, by the way. There's something, Libras, that I feel like you guys don't want to rock the boat. You don't sometimes want to commit or make a certain decision. You want to stay even keel. You want to stay neutral. You want to be like the Swiss. And ultimately, that doesn't always work. Not taking a stance is also taking a stance in a way. And it creates this feeling of like wavering. And it's this false sense of safety and security of like, I'm not going to decide. So da da da. And you're going to reach a point where you have to decide. And this full moon could bring that up for you. If there's something that you're kind of like not clear about what you want to do, or not that you're not clear, but that you're kind of actively trying to avoid making a certain decision or taking a certain stance or going in a particular direction. It's like you're trying to be kind of neutral, play all the fields, play all the options, not commit to something, not get clear on something, not communicate something, decide something. And it's like that level of neutrality and wavering is not going to serve you. And there are signs that the universe is trying to communicate this to you about what you need to do, about those next steps. And I feel like you're, with this card, you're not listening to the signs. And that could have to deal with Pluto being at 29 degrees in your 4th house. This is the last little push of Pluto at the end degrees of Capricorn. And the 4th house is a lot around like trusting ourselves, trusting our intuition and our inner knowing about something. And with Pluto here at 29 degrees, there could be this, again, this kind of crisis of like getting you to learn how to listen to your heart, to listen to your intuition, your instincts. I pulled the death card in reverse. So there's something that you are afraid to walk away from. There's something that you're trying to hold on to, that you don't want it to end. You don't want it to change. And that's just not what's going on at this full moon. This full moon is about endings. It's about change. It's about volatility, especially with Venus opposite Uranus and Venus being your planetary ruler. There is a change that will be thrust upon you. And it's like, what if you can just take the initiative and take some steps and commit to a decision or take a stance in some kind of way? That is going to help you a lot, honestly. I also have the Six of Cups, and this to me really reminds me of the fact that Mars is in Cancer. And the Six of Cups is like, it's our childhood memories and being influenced by our past and our family and like where we come from and those memories and emotions that are buried deep within us. And with this in reverse, I kind of feel like there's a way that the past is coming back up to haunt you in a way, or where like elements from your family or your history or whatever are influencing the present moment. And I feel like it's a time where you need to be letting go of the past instead of letting the past dictate you now. Like childhood issues can resurface for you to ultimately decide, no, like I'm done with that. So the death card in reverse is, and the Six of Cups in reverse, you have to let go of something that is tied to your past, or something in your present that has influence from your past, or some memory from the past, because it's getting in the way of your connection. It's getting in the way of your relationships. It's getting in the way of you knowing like what you want and where you're going and who you are, which is what Aries is about. Aries is about understanding yourself, but also yourself in relationship with others, and how that can be really directly influenced by, again, our childhood and our memories and all of that. The card in between is the Six of Wands, which is really weird because it doesn't bring up like a very strong... It's a card of like success and visibility, and yeah, and I'm wondering if this has to do with Mars being in your 10th house, because Mars in the 10th is motivated by reputation and by visibility and by success, but it's surrounded by these cards of not wanting to let go of the past and move on. So it's almost like, how can we move forward successfully and feel like we are accomplishing certain things that we want, or getting recognition for those accomplishments, or feeling satisfied with our results, if we're not willing to like let go of this thing that's inhibiting our relationships and our self-belief. Any clarifier for the Six of Wands, Spirit? Clarifier for the Six of Wands. The Five of Pentacles in reverse. Interesting. I feel like this is partially saying, with the Five of Pentacles in reverse, you are coming out of a time of not getting your bag, not getting your like accolades, or not getting, I don't know, whatever, like a justice, basically. The Five of Pentacles upright is like, I'm really lacking something. I'm really unsupported. But once in reverse, you're coming out of that period. And Six of Wands is about getting recognition, getting celebrated, being met by an equal partner, equal person, feeling like, yes, I'm like really honored for who I am and respected for who I am and what I have to offer. And I feel like that's what you are meant to have. But being surrounded by the Death in reverse, the Six of Cups in reverse, it's like you have to let go of something and let something transform in your life. And I think it's influenced by like childhood issues. So maybe this can look so different for everybody. So maybe you attract certain kinds of relationships into your life because you're playing out a childhood issue, but you're not meeting your equal because you're really just playing out some kind of pattern to learn from it. Some of you guys might be in the right relationship, but you're not allowing yourself to fully connect with that person in certain ways, or fully commit to something with them. You're wavering around something, or something in regards to not wanting to take a stance around something with them because, or they're taking a stance and it's affecting you. And there's something like that where it's like not wanting to have this kind of solidness, that could separate you from somebody else because of childhood stuff. So there's something here. It's like, listen to the signs, because that was your first card. Listen to the signs, look around you. There is meaning in your environment that I think you ought to listen to it. Any advice here, Spirit, for my Libras? So we have healing. Yeah, this is a time of healing. Healing in relationships, healing around childhood wounds, healing around our, certain fears, maybe around like having that kind of separate sense of self, or going off on our own, or defying somebody, or having that conflict come up in relationships. I don't want to get super specific. I kind of feel like I'm going down that, but there's some healing happening. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. So that is what I see for you, Libra. If that resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. I really like to hear what's happening for you in your stories, and especially at this full moon, which is, again, an uncomfortable one. I really want to know what's going on for you guys. If you want a reading from me, check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com. Don't forget to support this channel by giving me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. All right, I'm next to a Scorpio rising and sun. For you guys, this Aries full moon is happening in your 6th house, and it's on October 17th, and this is a dysfunctional and uncomfortable full moon. Watch the overview if you don't know that already. So this moon is conjunct Chiron, which is part of what makes it so sensitive. And this is happening in your 6th house. So this can really come up in the area of work. And I've been pulling cards from the Blind Spot Oracle deck, which is asking what are things that we're having to face now, because this full moon is about confrontation with others, with ourselves, with facing the truth, with dealing with things that have come that we've ignored for too long. And for you guys, the card that I pulled was non-committed. So there's something in your life that you may feel, and this could be related to your work life or your health, but there may be something where you may feel like you are committed, but you are not actually admitting to yourself that you're not as committed as you could be. This could be that you aren't making important decisions in regards to it, that you're saying that you'll try something, or that you feel like you're kind of giving effort here and there, or maybe you're not like creating enough discipline or schedule. There's something around it where it's like it could be a lot more defined. It could be like you could commit further. You could actually commit on every level. And there's something about your energy where you might not realize that you're not as committed to something as you thought. And so this full moon is kind of coming out, and I think it will partially bring those things to the surface. And I can definitely see that with, it's like this weird energy with the cards where I have the Ace of Wands in reverse and then the Knight of Wands. The Ace of Wands in reverse is somebody who's like, who's not taking action on an opportunity. They're missing opportunities. But then the Knight of Wands is somebody who's like sporadically like running towards the opportunities. Like they're really, really motivated and passionate about them, but they don't necessarily have all tools within their disposal to be super consistent and disciplined. They're kind of burning out quickly. They're not managing their time well. And so there's a sense of like, you're really, really passionate sometimes, but then and you're going super, super hard. But then at other times, maybe you're not, with the Ace of Wands, actually taking advantage of all the opportunities available to you, or you're not pacing yourself in the right ways. So there's something about your like, yeah, your consistency, your dedication, your work, your schedule. There's something about it in terms of like what you really want that I feel like is not. Yeah, I think it's important to be honest with yourself about it. You know, what is stopping you? What's stopping you from fully committing? And, you know, your advice power is she who instigates leadership, provocation, and power. So there's definitely something here where I feel like you guys are meant to be more of a leader in this situation or in your own life. And so there's something about, I kind of think it's about work, but it doesn't have to be about work. But there's something about it where it's like you kind of need to take that vision and execute and create a plan and have this solidness around it. I feel like maybe there's some energy, and this is because this full moon is squaring Mars in the ninth, and this is why I'm thinking this, because Mars is the ruler of this full moon. I feel like you guys have maybe been a little bit of like fly by the seat of your pants, or like hope it works out, like I have this intention of this future goal, but I feel like there's a murkiness around it. Like you're not sitting down and creating a concrete plan with steps each day and following those steps. It's like a little bit of this, again, this non-committal energy. You're not being super decisive or taking all the opportunities that you can take, not putting yourself out there in the ways that you maybe do. There's just stuff around that where I feel like you're kind of holding back a little bit. And with this square to Pluto in the third, there could be a lot around your own mindset that plays into that. And I can also see that with the other set of cards that I pulled here. So I pulled the Page of Swords upright and then the Eight of Swords in reverse. So it's interesting that we have 2 Wands cards and now we have 2 Swords cards. So I feel like there's, again, these cards are kind of like grouped into their own little like pockets of messages. And they're kind of playing off of each other. But the Page of Swords, I feel like, is somebody who is, they're not like, Page is the very beginning of something. It's like you have an idea, but you haven't actually, again, created that plan. Or you want to experiment with something. And it's like a lot of like open-ended things, questions and curiosities and learning. But there's something about this where I feel like that's helpful, but you also have to be in that kind of, again, that leadership energy, the King of Swords energy, or the King of Pentacles energy, where you're taking control over something. So you're not just like observing and thinking and curious and exploring and like, oh, what about this? And going down different paths in your mind and kind of like not super committed, not like executing something. You're just like kind of pondering and exploring. And it's like, I feel like you need to come out of that phase, and that you might not feel like you're necessarily in this phase entirely, but there's something about it that I think you might resonate with, where it's like you need to take real action on something or get really clear about something. I think it's more about clarity with Pluto in the third and Mars in the ninth. It's really about feeling like you're getting a hold of what you want this to look like concretely and the plan and steps to get there, and like getting your mind in order for this. Because I think, you know, this full moon is really here to help you kind of like get out of your own way, because you might have parts of yourself that have been anxious or that have been in like an analysis paralysis, or just like, yeah, I don't know. And so I feel like this full moon is about trying to find solutions. If you've been anxious, like what are you anxious about? How can you try to look for like a resolution for something, or again, a plan for something, or fully commit to something? And how can you find, again, the answers, the solutions, create the plan for yourself and take ownership over this circumstance? Yeah. And you also have Venus in your first house at 29 degrees of Scorpio, opposite Uranus in the 7th. So this can be somewhat erratic when it comes to relationships. And I just kind of feel like people are unreliable narrators. We can't trust what they are saying or they're thinking. We are unreliable in certain ways. I think a lot of people's like shadows are coming out. A lot of emotions are coming out. Things are just kind of chaotic. This is a very like full moon, a full moon, like a lot full of experiences. And I feel like this is trying to kind of get you to really see the value in yourself, and with it being opposite Uranus in the 7th, I feel like liberate you from maybe needing approval or needing like help or needing support. There's something here around like, I can do it on my own, or I don't need permission. I don't know, like something around you kind of feeling like you're taking care of you basically, and letting go maybe some attachments and that like of being a part of a group or being part of a relationship or being part of a job. It's like, what if you went off on your own and you trusted yourself to be the leader of your own life? That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. So I also pulled this Vitality card, and it says, figs will show you that you can and should look at what you have and what's going on with new eyes. Every single day gives us a chance at a fresh beginning, but you will need to jump up and work for it. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, getting clear on the perspective, on the plan, on where you're headed, on your ideas, committing to them and working towards them. I feel like that's what this card is saying. New life experiences are on offer and clarity will shine upon opportunities as well. Exactly. Someone may be about to bring trouble to your sphere, so make sure you protect yourself. That's a chaotic relationship energy. So yeah, you can't rely on other people. Other people are like all over the place. You can rely on yourself, but you need to get clear and commit fully to something in order for that to happen. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. If that resonates, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you want a reading from me, don't forget to check out cosmicclarityastrology.com. And if you want to support my channel in any way, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe and share with your friends. Have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. For you guys, this Aries full moon is happening on October 17th in your 5th house. Please watch the overview for this one because this is a doozy of a full moon, and yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. I mean, maybe a little less so for you guys. Never mind, take that back. I just think it's going to be hard because there's just so much going on with it. So many areas of our life are affected, and it's all in like this kind of volatile and uncomfortable way. So one of the things is that this full moon in Aries is conjunct Chiron. So Chiron and the moon are together. Chiron is a planet that sensitizes us, or it's an asteroid that creates kind of like triggering around our wounding, our insecurities, our fears. It can create physical and emotional, the opposite of well-being, imbalance. I don't know what you would call it. So many of us might be feeling that this is happening in your 5th house. If you guys have children, I definitely feel like issues around children or childbearing or your relationships with your children or wanting children, if that is your path or related to your path, I definitely feel like there's some issue that's going to come up around that right now. Something that's going to reach peak emotions, especially because it's squaring Mars in the 8th and Pluto in the 2nd. There can be a lot that comes up around fears, around loss, around insecurity or financial instability, and just feeling really like uncertain of oneself in many ways. And this could also be around the birth of a creative project, or you know, the 5th house is like an expression or an extension of the self. So there could be something that happens around that brings up a lot of a sensitivity and emotions again, and those same issues with the 2nd 8th house axis of like just feeling what's interesting is that, you know, I asked Spirit, like, what is it that my Sagittarius are not experiencing or noticing, not noticing that they're experiencing, I should say. And I got the shame card. And so I feel like this is really about like allowing yourself to feel any kind of shame. So if you are, for example, a parent and you're having issues with your children, then you might feel shame around having an issue, having your kid be upset, and what that means about you, or what you're making that mean about you. You might, if this is a creative project or something that you want to do to express yourself, you might have shame around your desire for visibility or your desire for, you know, to be like applauded, admired, loved. You might have shame around just the process of the creation process in general. There's just stuff here where it's like, I feel like on your path to success with something, or the creation of something, or the joy of something, and, you know, enjoying your children, for example, on the path to that, I feel like you're encountering a situation that makes you uncertain, that puts you on an unstable ground, and it makes you experience the feeling of shame. And in the process of running from that shame, you may have other kind of symptoms pop up as a result of trying to suppress that or push that down or not acknowledge that. And ultimately, this is a time of like bearing your soul at this full moon. This is a time of feeling all the feelings, of being raw, of being exposed, of allowing yourself to just go through a crisis and express the shame or the uncertainty or the insecurity or the doubt or the self-doubt, whatever it is. It's like allowing that to just like all be laid out. And I feel like that's going to be challenging for everybody. So one of the cards I pulled is this orange card. It says adventure and rapid progress are indicated. I also pulled the success card right after that. So rapid progress towards success. I feel like you are approaching that. And it's anchored into your true purpose and the direction you're currently taking. Oranges indicate that anything is possible, although you need to get willpower, what? Oh, working hard. So you need to work your willpower. Okay. This is weird writing. There will be challenges, but you can overcome them, and someone around you may need extra support. Okay. So I feel like this is trying to assure you that success is coming for you in this path. Your relationship with your kid, it's going to be successful. Your kid's going to turn out good. This creative project's going to turn out good. If you want to get admiration, you're going to achieve some level of notoriety and success. But it's more of like the process, that there are hurdles and things that are coming up that I feel like you need to feel your way through. And with, again, the squaring Mars in the 8th, there's a lot of things that can come up, again, that bring up shame amongst other difficult emotions that you're going to have to feel and face in order to have this success. And again, there can be a lot around like also money and just like survival. And yeah, with Pluto, with Mars opposite Pluto in the second house, there can be a lot around that comes up where you can feel inadequate, you can feel not good enough, you can feel a lack, or be driven by scarcity, be driven by fear, be driven by the desire to survive. All those things are really stimulated at this full moon for everybody, but really also for you. Venus at 29 degrees of Scorpio is in your 12th house opposite Uranus in the 6th. So this is a little bit more like, I don't know. I feel like this Venus in the 12th is really trying to get you to examine the way that you take care of yourself. And with the opposite Uranus in the 6th and also being at 29 degrees of Scorpio, there could be some degree of like self-sabotage going on here, or like missing yourself, like not thinking about yourself, overlooking yourself, not focusing on like certain things that you need to build yourself up emotionally, or to support yourself and nurture yourself through the process of feeling shame or difficult emotions. And I feel like it's time to liberate yourself from first of all, like not addressing these darker emotions. That's step one, like getting out of that and actually feeling them, but then also like learning how to really support yourself through that. That's step two, is like, how do I actually heal by allowing myself to feel and do the things that are healthy to cope with, to get support, to not feel alone. I feel like there's a lot of, with the kidneys, is a lot of like anxiety, uncertainty, insecurity. And this breath card is all about giving yourself that life that you need to lift yourself back up. So yeah, I just think it's kind of like a rough full moon for everybody, honestly. And yeah, I'm curious what Venus in the 12th is going to bring up for you. So that's what I have for you, Sagittarius. If that resonates, if you want to share your experience, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. I really love to hear, especially this full moon, like how it's manifesting for you guys. If you want a reading from me, you can check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com, which I always link in my description box. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up as well to support this channel, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Capricorn rising and sun. This Aries full moon on October 17th is happening in your 4th house. And it is a chaotic one. So if you haven't watched the overview, definitely go ahead and make sure you check that out, because I'm not really looking forward to this full moon. And one of the reasons why is because the moon is conjunct Chiron, which definitely brings out a need for healing. But we see that because we are going through something that's showing us that we need to heal. For you, I think I pulled cards for each group around what are they not seeing or what's being revealed at this full moon, because full moons are about awakenings and revelations. And I pulled the card of depletion. So you guys are not maybe fully taking care of or fully realizing. Maybe you're realizing it, but maybe you're not addressing the fact that you are depleted. And one of the things that this card is talking about is that depletion can come in a lot of different forms. And with this full moon being in the 4th, 10th house axis, this can have a lot to deal with, work, for example, being in the wrong kind of work, not getting emotional fulfillment from your sense of direction in life, not feeling inspired. You could feel depleted because of the way that people treat you at work. You could feel depleted because of where you live and the people around your hometown or who live in the same house as you, or your family and your relationship with your family. You might feel depleted emotionally because you're going through lots of ups and downs, and maybe you don't have a good work-life balance, and maybe things are happening in your relationships and it's making you feel like, unstable, or like there's not, a lot of good, or whatever it is. There's some element here of feeling like you're pulling from an empty well. You're not filling up your cup at the end of the day. You need more. And one of the pieces of advice from this card is also talking about not just recognizing depletion in different forms, but also nourishment in different forms. Nourishment of support, of a supportive word from a friend, a hug, eating a beautiful meal, having, again, some kind of project that inspires you, physically resting, taking care of yourself and your beauty to show yourself that you value yourself, spending time in nature to be nourished by your environment, or with pets, for example. There's like all these different ways that we can take things in. We can take a compliment. We can get, again, love and support from others. And it's just important for you guys to use this period of time to actually reflect on where you're experiencing depletion and where you could get the best kind of nourishment to match or align with wherever it is depleted in your life. So with a full moon in the 4th, this can be a very sensitive and emotional time, especially because, again, Chiron is there. You might feel especially triggered. You could have stuff come up from your past or from your family. And again, it can just be like a little bit overwhelming, especially if you have anything around kind of 24, 25 degrees of the cardinal signs. This full moon is also squaring Mars and Cancer in your 7th house and squaring Pluto in your 1st house. So it's making this grand cardinal cross, hitting on all these important angles, literally all of the angular houses. And so it's affecting really every important element of your life: your career, your home, your emotions, your physical body, your close relationships, just everything. And so ultimately, I feel like it's kind of drudging up a lot within you. And you could be experiencing some level of anxiety with the brain. And in the 8 of Swords, you might be overthinking a little bit right now, or overstimulated. Your brain might be trying to make sense of everything that's going on if things are like a little bit chaotic or uncertain in your life, or if you're feeling uncertain in your life. So yeah, there's just some element here of things being like quite unstable, and relationships or people in your life in particular might be troubling. Like the people around you, with the square to Mars in the 7th, I could just see somebody pissing you off, like saying the wrong thing, or just kind of trying to control you, or I don't know, just like rubbing you the wrong way, and kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Mars in the 7th is just, we're not as patient as we want to be with people in our life, especially with the opposite Pluto in your 1st. There is some volatile energy there, some intense feelings there. And this is a time where you guys are getting your last push with Pluto at 29 degrees of your sign in your 1st house. You're getting this last push of Pluto in Capricorn before it officially moves into Aquarius in your 2nd house. And so you're getting this like kind of last bit of transformation, and you're going to be challenged at this time in order to execute the transformation. And one of my primary things with Capricorn is quite literally deficiency. In medical astrology, Capricorn and Saturn rules Capricorn, are linked with actual vitamin and mineral deficiencies, which is why having bone problems is super common with Capricorns. So it's literally linked with deficiency, and I pulled the card of depletion. So there's this sense of like, I need to learn how to really nurture myself. I need to learn how to fill up my cup, how to meet my needs, and bring in some of like literally the nutrients into my life in whatever form that is. And I think that that's a really big theme for my Capricorns all throughout life. And so that might be something that you're going through right now. And how relationships fit into that is probably being defined right now, because sometimes, I don't know. I mean, how other people, like, are they meeting our needs? Are they supporting us? Are they causing more depletion? Are we doing so much for them that we're not doing enough for ourselves? Are we hyper independent that we're not feeling like we're getting what we want from other people? Are people causing stress or conflict? It's like there's so much in regards to how other people fit into this that's super important here. And ultimately, this whole Pluto transformation is about helping you uncover kind of like the roots of these Capricorn things, where we want to work really hard. We want to have success. We want to have stability. We want to feel like we have the power. We want to have the reputation. We want to have the influence. We want to have the respect. And those are all fine things. But I think the desire and the drive for that can also like deteriorate us if we're doing things that are not like supporting ourselves, if we're not balancing it with nourishment, if we're not in the right type of career, if we're not seeking out support from others, if we're trying to do it all on our own, if we're doing it at whatever cost and being ruthless, like whatever that is. Pluto can bring out the unhealthy mechanisms of a planet in Capricorn and show that to you. And at this time, some of those patterns can be highlighted for you. I also pulled the vitality card. So it is like, it's literally talking about depletion. And then I got the vitality. So some of you guys might just physically be going through quite a bit right now. Moon Chiron is not good for the physical body. It can bring up ailments. It is squaring Pluto in your first house. So whatever these things are, it could be from like stress, because often I see Pluto involved in quite anxious people, or like people who are like kind of like OCD. They're thinking a lot and they're like, yeah, just anxious, I would say. Okay. Figs will show that you can and should look at what you have with new eyes. Every day gives us a chance at a fresh beginning, but you need to work for it. Okay. Anywho, so I also pulled, so I got the Eight of Swords. I already mentioned this can have to deal with anxiety. I also pulled the Six of Wands in reverse, King of Wands in reverse, Page of Cups in reverse. So Six of Wands is a card of transition from like choppy waters to smooth waters. With this in reverse, I feel like it's trying to say, I feel like you're going really hard, but there's no end in sight. Like you're pushing, and it's like, I want to achieve this, or I want this goal, or whatever it is you're trying to do. But it's like, instead of moving into calmer waters, you're just seeing more seas ahead that are the same level of like work or tiredness or time. Like, yeah. And I feel like you might feel a little bit frustrated, like, oh, I'm not moving forward, or like I want to make some real progress with things, or maybe you're just scared. You're scared that you're not going to get a break. I don't know. It's going to look different for all of you, so I don't like to give specific examples, but really it's just this card is talking about, like, I feel like it's needing to carve out that space to create the calm waters, to take some time off, or again, it depends on what need is depleted. So if it's emotional, maybe you need a therapist. If it's physical, maybe you need a massage. If it's relational, maybe you need to spend more time with friends. If it's career, maybe you need to do something that inspires you or that you're intuitively guided to do. It's like, what area of life do you feel depleted in? What way can you nourish yourself and carve out the space to move to those calmer waters? Because it's not just going to happen on its own. I feel like that's what this card is saying. You're just going to keep going against the grain, against the waves. And yeah, with the King of Wands in reverse, I feel like if you keep going on that direction, you're going to start to lose kind of inspiration. And it's almost like you're kind of like becoming a dictator over yourself. Like, instead of taking inspired action and moving forward when it feels good, it's like coming from a place of that discipline of like, you have to do this, you have to do it now. And you know. Or you might go to the opposite end where you rebel and you're like, I don't want to do anything. I'm just, you can kind of like shoot your hands up like, I don't want to be dependable right now. I don't want to follow through with this. I just want to do what I want when I want, because it's like you are not nourishing yourself along the way or having that kind of, that space, which is a very fourth house thing. It's like your home, your space, your physical environment needs to feel and look a certain way for you to feel good, for you to feel calm. Your relationship with your family members needs to be stable for you to feel stable. Your emotional nature needs to be tended to for you to feel like you're not having this built up kind of residue carrying with you each day. And so there's this need to like just take care of these really intimate aspects of yourself in your life. And if you're always going and if you're focusing on the sun and the 10th and getting everything done and it's like, yeah, I feel like you can go to the point of like either just continuously being too hard on yourself, or like get to the breaking point where you're just like, fuck it, I don't even care anymore. And that's kind of the Page of Cups, is like somebody who's like maybe being a little bit more immature, or childish, where it's like, yeah, but you're the parent. You're the parent of your own child. And if your child is rebelling, then look also at your parenting. Look at the context of the environment. Look at what's happening to them. Why are they rebelling? What need is not met that they're seeking? And when I say they, I mean you. You also have Venus at 29 degrees in Scorpio in your 11th, opposite Uranus in the 5th. So relationships right now can be kind of volatile. There could be, if you have like groups of friends, there could be stuff happening within your friends. Even things that you want and that you desire, those things could all be kind of shifting right now. And you're like changing your relationship with them. Like, why do I want that? Where am I going with this? Spirit, any advice around, okay. So you guys have the She Who Dreams, Escape, Dream, and Fantasy. I feel like you need to give yourself some time for fantasy. That might be what this Venus in the 11th house is really begging of you. It's like, what if we could just have some time to like dream up the beautiful, like idealistic kind of scenarios? Like, Saturn, Capricorn, that's really not... Not to say that Capricorns are builders of society, of massive things. So they are absolutely visionaries in their own way. But they're not always the most, like, fantasy-oriented. This is going to depend. It's going to depend, especially if you have, like, again, like many of us do, Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn. And regardless, I feel like it's saying to lean into the fantasy. For me, I love fantasy books. So I will read a ton of fantasy books, watch a ton of fantasy movies. Like, I want to be a part of a world that doesn't exist, because I need a second to unplug and like totally fill up my cup when I'm depleted. So that's a part of what I do. But this fantasy element, this dream, this escape can look different for everybody. Maybe it's going on a vacation. Maybe it's daydreaming about what a beautiful thing would be in your future. Maybe it's drawing, maybe it's painting, maybe it's going on a walk. It's going to look different for all of you, but there's some way that you need to kind of get out of the rat race, get out of the work and the goals and the concrete reality just for a second. Get out of that and come back to what's in your heart. What is more, it's not visible, but it's so much more important than everything else. So take care of your inner child, the core of who you are, and I think everything else you'll notice will start to improve for you greatly. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. If this resonates, I would love to hear from you down below. If you want a reading from me, you can check me out at cosmicclarity.astrology.com, which I always link in my description box. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Aquarius rising and sun. So for you guys, this Aries full moon on October 17th is taking place in your 3rd house. It is a rough full moon. So if you haven't watched the overview, definitely check that out. This moon is conjunct Chiron, which brings out a lot of sensitivity, a lot of emotional instability, feeling triggered, feeling uncertain. And this is in your 3rd house of mindset and communication. So I definitely feel like your energy might feel a little bit unstable, a little bit more erratic. It's possible you could hear some kind of news or have a conversation that disrupts you emotionally. There could be things that you are forced to think about, that you are forced to talk about, that you are forced to face, that could be deeply uncomfortable for you. And I definitely see that because I've been asking spirit with every group, what is it that they need, that they are not that they need to see, but that they will confront, that they haven't been confronting at this time. And you guys got the shapeshifter card, which has a lot to deal with wanting to kind of like ignore something, wanting to maintain a blind spot, either in yourself or in something else, or in your life in some sort, like kind of tiptoeing around an issue, contorting yourself to like not have to see it, not have to acknowledge it, not have to feel into it, not have to experience a difficulty around it. And it can create this like lack of solidness because you're not actually really dealing with and truly interacting with reality in a certain sense, maybe in one facet of your life in some way, or you're doing it through blips, but you're not actually like dealing with it totally. And I also pulled this escape card, and this is super Aquarius. Like Aquarius tends to become emotionally detached and disassociative, and they can really just kind of like go into a fantasy realm and escape through literally fantasy. Aquarians love fantasy usually, or like another time, a different galaxy, like this kind of like really being detached from their life in a certain way to not have to deal with certain buried feelings. And with the pelvis card, this is your advice, is it's time to unearth the feelings. It's time to move them, to feel them, and to address things and face things head on. Have that difficult conversation, even if it brings up conflict or stress, because this moon is in a grand cross. It's squaring Mars in the 6th in Cancer, and it's squaring Pluto in Capricorn in the 12th. And this Pluto energy in the 12th is trying to get you to really like to face your demons in a way. Pluto in the 12th is like, it kind of gives me the imagery of somebody knowing that there are skeletons in the closet, knowing that there's a monster there or a boogeyman there, and they just shut the closet and they're like, go about their day. And they're like, I'll come back to that later. That's not a big deal. And I think that this full moon is about unearthing those skeletons. It's about opening the closet door, looking at them, coming up with ways to cope with them or deal with them, and making decisions around that. And then this square with Mars in the 6th, this feels like it could affect you on a very visceral, physical level. You know, if you're not facing with it, or if you do face it, and especially like past traumas and things that you haven't maybe fully like digested, if those kind of come back up, I definitely could see this affecting you physically, like having a lot of stress and, yeah, hormonally could be feeling off. I don't know. It's like, it kind of gets into your bones in a way. With Mars in the 6th, it could create that sense of like worry, overthinking. Yeah. Page of Swords, Page of Wands, 3 of Swords, 4 of Cups in reverse, and then one more, Spirit. I also am curious, like, around your life direction right now, with Venus being in your 10th house opposite Uranus in the 4th. Venus and any planets in the 10th are kind of pointing towards our career, our sense of direction. King of Wands in reverse, Queen of Pentacles upright. And with Venus at 29 degrees, it's going to be especially around like career, relationships, or what we're prioritizing in our life, in our kind of goals, like where we want to go next, and how relationships and people fit into that. And opposite Uranus in the 4th, there's a lot of like volatility here, especially when it comes to your own feelings and your family, and how all these relationships stir things up within you. And I really feel like it's drudging up potentially traumatic past events with this square to Pluto in the 12th and even Uranus in the 4th. And I feel like it's doing that to kind of, yeah, I feel like it's doing that to get you unstuck in a way and to liberate you also, so that you can accomplish more, or so that you can feel like less stressed or have more stability in your life, so that you can like have your priorities straight. It's going to look different, like what the benefits are from that. But there is a need to actually face something. Page of Wands, Three of Swords. Page of Wands, I feel like this is like a timeline. Oh, I'm going along. I'm having fun in life. Like, I really feel that I'm excited about this new relationship or this new job or this thing. And it's this kind of like happy naivete and engagement with life and this passion. And then boom, page Three of Swords, and you get struck down and you are emotionally just like hurt. Something breaks your heart, something disappoints you, something leaves you wounded, the trauma that I'm referring to. And then it's like you're having to kind of recover from this with the Four of Cups in reverse. I feel like you're having to kind of like re-engage with life again, come back into something again. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, I'm happy at my job. I'm super happy. Then I get fired. And then it's like, okay, I have to find another job again. And you have to like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and da da da. Or like, I'm in a relationship. I'm so excited. Break up. And then it's like, okay, I gotta like slowly kind of put myself back out there. There's this sense of like letting the ice thaw but like feeling your feelings in that. You know, when you're looking for another job, when you're looking for another relationship, when you're doing something that kind of reminds you of this journey and this heartbreak, you have to also just feel what you feel, because you don't want to carry that with you into your future. Venus in the 10th house. What are your priorities? Where you're moving towards in your future? And yeah, it's like you don't want to carry that residue with you. King of Wands in reverse, Queen of Pentacles upright. I feel like you guys are moving towards a really stable, like beautiful kind of new beginning for yourselves. This could look like you finally establishing necessary boundaries. This could be you being more confident. This could be you finding a really great career path, or a really great relationship, if that was following that example. This could be you getting really good at like managing your money and feeling really proud of the things that you've accomplished in your life. Whatever this is, the Queen of Pentacles is somebody who's really good at taking care of themselves. But I think part of it is because they've had to overcome this kind of King of Wands in reverse, this energy of things not working out or sputtering out, or, you know, being like inconsistent with something and whether you want it or not, or being hard on yourself. Like, this King of Wands has a lot of different things, but at the heart of it is somebody who is kind of a little disconnected with what their hearts really desire and what they really need. And ultimately, I feel like with this full moon being in your 3rd house, it's about having a kind of like the difficult conversations and like a mental and logical awakening towards what it is that's really going on, what the truth is, and like what you really need, so that you can start to get towards this stable energy of the Queen of Pentacles. Because if you keep ignoring it, or shape-shifting, or not being solid in terms of like how you're perceiving something, or how you're addressing it sometimes in the nod, or whatever this is, or you're escaping into other places, and whatever it is, it's like it's a form of avoidance. And once you finally tackle that and you feel into your heart and you listen to your heart, because really you're avoiding it because you don't want to listen to what your heart is telling you, that something is off, that something needs to change. And once you do listen to that, this Queen of Pentacles is going to help stabilize you. So let me just pull like one more advice card. Advice, Spirit, for my Aquarius. So we have the vitality card. This keeps coming out. So I feel like part of the message here is to like do things that boost your vitality, like eating certain foods, doing meditation, sleeping well, going outdoors, you know, things like that that are just going to kind of like maybe reconnect you to your body and your life force energy, things that inspire you. I feel like you're kind of building your energy back up after some kind of knock. Maybe you had a hiccup in a relationship, or, you know, like a fight with somebody, or you were really stressed because of a project at work that wasn't going well, or you had a little health incident, and that could be the Three of Swords. And now I feel like you're kind of rebuilding and recouping your energy. And this vitality card is telling you to like do the things that actually help you do that. That actually help you feel good. So anyway, that felt like a lot of like messages for you, Capricorn. Hopefully that resonates. Or Aquarius. Oh my God. It is past 10 o'clock at night that I'm filming this, so that's probably why. But if this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you want a reading from me, don't forget to check me out at cosmicclarity.com. Please support the channel by giving me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This full moon in Aries happening on October 17th is taking place in your second house. And if you've watched the overview, which I really recommend you do, then you know that this is a volatile full moon, full of relationship issues and feelings of conflict and stress and uncertainty. And those are pretty common things that we can go through. It's a particularly triggering moon because this moon is conjunct Chiron, which brings up pain and wounding. And we feel a lot more sensitive to it as well. Whenever there are major Chiron transits, people tend to get sick, physically or emotionally. It's like they're having to heal from something, and this full moon is definitely going to bring that up. For you, this is in your second house, so this is definitely going to influence you in terms of your self-worth, your values, your priorities, and your finances. So if you've been having issues around worthiness, around money, feeling good in your relationships, feeling like you have a lot to offer, and feeling like you also are valuing yourself, if there are cracks in that foundation, they will come up around this full moon. And it's interesting because for every group I've been pulling a card, what is it that is coming up for you that you're going to have to face? You guys got the card of blame. And this card in particular is talking about not taking accountability, not taking responsibility, or seeing your part in something and kind of putting the blame or like the locus of control outside of you. And I can definitely see that with this second house axis, you know, the moon's in the second, sun's in the eighth. There's a lot around like autonomy of the second house and what is yours, what you own, what you alone are skilled at or have manifested from your own two hands. And then the eighth house, which is a lot around like everybody else's stuff and how that influences you and how you combine with others, and it gets a little bit more nuanced. So this full moon could bring up the need to look to like take stock of how your life is and see where these deep feelings are coming up, you know, because again, this is a triggering full moon. And if you are feeling insecure, if you are feeling uncertain, if you're feeling unhappy with certain things in your life and you're feeling like you're all jumbled up and you're not having like, your life doesn't look the way you want it to look, this card can talk about really trying to parse out like what you have control over and what is your responsibility and what you need to take accountability for to get your life in order, to create stability, to feel more confident, or like your values and priorities are in order, to establish relationships with people that really value you equally, like all these kinds of things. It's going to depend on each person what's going on, but there's this need to stabilize, and you have to first see how some of your actions contribute to destabilization of your life. Yeah, we have duality and passion. Yeah, I definitely see this like duality here where you're having to kind of experience some of the contrast. You know, this whole full moon energy is, like I mentioned, quite volatile, but you're trying to move towards stability. So you have to experience this kind of pure volatility in order to understand exactly where those kind of fracture points are so that you can strengthen them and create that stable foundation again. So we need that duality to kind of ignite the passion for change, because I think sometimes if we are not experiencing enough stress or enough burden or discomfort, we can get kind of like lazy with life, and we can disengage, and we can not be on top of it as much, or not instigate necessary change and be proactive with things. This is an Aries full moon. Aries is about taking initiative, taking ownership, taking action, and it's about igniting your passion. So if you've been like a little bit like kind of passive, which is a very Pisces quality, if you've been passive in some area of your life, it's time to take ownership and time to feel the discomfort, see the contrast, and get your ass moving towards the thing that would make it better, towards the thing that will stabilize you. And this full moon is also in a grand cross, which is another destabilizing factor. It's squaring Mars in Cancer in your 5th, and it's squaring Pluto in Capricorn in your 11th. So, Spirit, what do you want to say about this grand cross, this square with Mars and Pluto? What do you want to say about the outcome of this moon? So I will say that Mars being in the 5th, Pluto being in the 11th, these are both relationship houses. So there is something about your self-worth and your value and the way that you see yourself, and also your relationships as well. There's some kind of connection here between the crisis that's going to happen with a cardinal cross, and the crisis could be a really small degree or a large degree. It depends on how it's aspecting your chart. But it's like there's got to be other people that kind of instigate part of this crisis for you to do the deep self-reflection that comes with the Hermit, for you to find what is true for you. The Hermit is somebody who's kind of going into their like cave, and they're reflecting on everything that they see and feel, and they're shining their light from within without like the external influence to discover what is true for them. So there's something about other people in your life potentially creating some kind of like chaotic situation for you, in order for you to go within and rely on yourself to come up with what feels true for you around the situation, what will help you stabilize and create abundance for yourself with this Empress card. This is a full moon in the 2nd house. It's about stability in all senses, abundance in all senses, but especially obviously money, because the 2nd house is a financial house. We also have 3 of Swords and 2 of Cups in reverse. So some of you could be going through a breakup or some serious relationship issues that is creating, again, that feeling of instability. And yeah, I just feel like this is probably not going to relate to everybody, but there's just something going on with relationships right now. It could potentially be your relationship with yourself, but with the 3 of Swords, usually like somebody else is acting in a situation to create this feeling of maybe like uncertainty within us. And it's almost like we have to like take our power back and realize we are allowing that to happen to us. We are allowing them to cross the line. We are allowing them to influence us. You know, Pisces, you have to be really careful with stuff like that. Your container, your boundaries, if you have dominant Pisces in your chart, is so much more fluid and open. And if you contaminate it by having one bad seed, one bad drop of something in there, it can totally create dysfunction in your nervous system, in your life. And so it's super important, the people that you surround yourself with, the things that you're doing to protect and stabilize your life, grounding you as well. Those things need to be like a regular part of your life and your routine and your upkeep. They're not just going to happen on their own. And so I also didn't realize, but I pulled the Judgment card. Some of you guys are going to have to make some important big decisions right now. And I think this could come on the back of Venus in 29 degrees of Scorpio in your 9th, opposite Uranus in your 3rd. This could come on the back of really awakening conversations with another person, or realizations because of another person somehow. It's like, or getting information of some sort. It's like you gaining clarity around something, having this like awakening aha kind of moment, not transcending the situation, but like literally ascending and viewing it from a higher perspective. You're still in it, but you are observing it as well from that witness place. And I feel like this Judgment card is really speaking to you not only doing that, not only awakening and being able to view what's really going on from your personal subjective perspective, but also from like an objective distant point, and making important decisions in regards to that. And again, this could definitely involve relationships and things around abundance, but whatever it is, it's like you need to trust in the process of life. When I see the Empress, this is somebody who needs to trust that there is better, that there is abundance, that the universe will provide. So if you do have some difficult situation that you're trying to create stability in, it's like you have to trust that that's available for you. And usually Pisces, you're really good at trusting. And I think this Hermit card is also like trusting yourself, because I think Pisces, you know, this whole thing around like not being able to see what's right in front of you sometimes because you hide it from yourself is like a very much a thing. And it's weird because every reading's been kind of just like normal. Like I've just been doing all the signs. You're obviously my last sign always. And one of the things that happened between Aquarius and you was I put some of my tarot cards on top of another oracle deck. And I was putting all my cards away, but then I couldn't find that oracle deck because it was hidden under the tarot cards. So I only saw the tarot on top, and I thought that was the tarot deck. And it's late at night. It's like 10:30 p.m. I'm tired. I'm looking around my desk. I'm looking for this oracle deck, and I'm like, where is it? And then I started thinking about these Reddit pages where they have like glitch in the matrix, and like, oh my God, did I just experience, you know, the universe opening up? What is it, like the little like, what is the word for that, where it's like a fragment in time or something, and you like, anyway, I was like, it just disappeared. Time, it blipped into another timeline. Not really, I didn't actually think the thought came to my mind, but not, you know, I didn't believe that because I know that it's here. I know I placed it somewhere. And then I realized after too long that it was underneath, just a few cards that were on top were different, and the actual deck was underneath that. And I had this thought, I'm like, I feel like this might be related to Pisces, the fact that it happened right before your group, and it was really irritating and like noticeable. So I feel like there's something going on with that, where I put those cards on the deck, but I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't like a conscious, I'm knowingly doing this. There was this kind of, and this might be a common Pisces thing, this kind of like being in a flow state, being blissed out, like kind of floating through life, like creatively inspired. And then something happens, and it creates this need to go within and be a lot more like self-aware of each moment and everything that you're doing to contribute to something. Again, we have the blame card, which is about taking responsibility, and the Hermit card, which is about really being self-aware and doing the self-inventory. And I feel like there could be things in your life where you're kind of just moving through life, and this, whatever is going on, is calling you to like, is shaking things up to help you stop in your tracks and then be aware of how you might be kind of unintentionally hiding things from yourself, or not facing certain things, or not feeling certain things, which is what this full moon is really about, is for all of us to like actually like see the truth of something. And I feel like that's what this full moon is about. It's about seeing how sometimes you can hide that truth from yourself, and you can put the blame outside of you, and you can feel like you're powerless, and you can feel like, oh, I somehow ended up here. I don't know what happened there. And it's like, that's not actually helpful, and that's not true. There's always some element of a decision happening, whether you are super conscious of it or not, whether you are aware of your power and your responsibility in the situation or not. And I feel like you are kind of needing to just bring more awareness to your powers of manifestation in this scenario. And also like trusting the divine, that if you decide to make changes, that whatever is on the other side of that will rise up to meet you, that you're not just going to fall flat on your ass basically and be shit out of luck. Like the universe will support you. Have always been supported. But it's like, what do you want to mold this into? And there is some element there of, you know, having to make certain important decisions, especially maybe for some of you around a relationship, potentially, but needing to see that duality, to see where that decision is so that you can have agency and make important decisions in regards to your life to bring greater happiness, contentment, healing, stability, hope, faith, connection to the universe, all those things. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. If this resonates, I'd love to hear your stories down below in the comments. And if you want a reading from me, you can always check me out at cosmicclarityastrology.com, which I will link in my description box. Don't forget to also support my channel by giving me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day.